I could really get used to that. It's really nice. So really great to be here tonight with you guys. About 10 years ago, I was on a friend of mine's porch back in North Carolina, drinking a couple of adult beverages, as girlfriends do. And my friend was the mother of a very fiercely independent 9-year-old daughter. And my friend casually commented, she said, you know, if I were to die today, she would wake up tomorrow morning and she probably wouldn't even know I was gone. She wouldn't skip a beat. Well, through the week, that comment kept going through my head. And I was compelled to call my friend back for 2 reasons. One, because I wanted to see if she really believed that. Was it true or was she kidding? The second reason is because if she did believe it, I wanted to set her straight. Her very presence in her daughter's life, whether she said anything or not, was the model and the mentor for how that little girl was learning to become a woman, how that little girl was learning to navigate the world. I call that the power of mother. When I was 9 years old, I came home from school one day to learn, very sadly, that my mother had passed away unexpectedly. She died of a cerebral hemorrhage, a Barry's aneurysm. It's a bleed at the base of the brain. Needless to say, it's a pretty sentinel event in my life in terms of who I became as a woman. To this day, there's a hole in my heart in the shape of my mother. Now, my mother was far from perfect. She chain-smoked non-filter Pall-Mall cigarettes. She was always in a martini or a vin rosé. She was a lot of fun. But I think, I'm pretty certain that she was a functioning alcoholic. But, you know, those aren't really the things I remember about her. What I remember is that she tucked me in at night, she cooked dinner, she played saber dance on the piano, and my brother and I would go crazy. It was like, ah! It was, you know, I mean, did you guys have a mom like that? I mean, it's just great. She taught me not to lie. She nurtured my creativity. And in an otherwise unsafe world, I knew I was safe in the love of my mother. And I believe that is what saved me. My parents had been divorced for about 6 years, and my father had left California and gone back to Virginia. So he came to get me and my brother to take us back after the funeral, back to Virginia, where less than 30 days later, he was getting married. Yeah. My stepmother found herself in the precarious situation. Can you imagine? The acquisition of 2 children, and she had one, 2 kids who had just lost their mother. It's a lot to ask of even the healthiest soul. To add to that, she wasn't adequately prepared, and to add to that, it was 1967. You know, we weren't talking about that stuff then. It was just, let it be. In the ensuing years, there was a lot of verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. And while we tried to make a family, and sometimes we did, the things that stuck out the most to me, and to this day do, are the negative things. Neither one of my mother figures were a good role model. When mothers die, we tend to canonize them, but over time I've realized that, you know, even my mother wasn't perfect, and as a result, I had no role model. I didn't know how to become my true self. And I think overall, I really believed the silent message that I wasn't worthy to be loved. There are common themes, I believe that there are common themes that sort of show up when people are subject to abuse or abandonment. And they're things like fear, aloneness, a real sense of aloneness even when you're in a crowd of people. Depression, anger, numbness, or the desire to numb. And for me, I think there was something in particular that I sort of realized and is present to this day in my 54-year-old life. There's this tendency to live on the periphery of life, to be always an observer, but almost a participant. You know, just I don't belong. But now I suspect there are some of you, I wish I didn't suspect this, but I do. I suspect that there are some of you here tonight who can kind of identify with my story. Is there anybody here? The lights are so bright I can't see. But wherever our mothers fell on the continuum, whether they were Mommy Dearest to June Cleaver, none of them are perfect. So we go through life with some scars, some of them worse than others. But there comes a time in our lives when we need to get to the business of becoming who we were meant to be, to put that stuff down. And that becoming occurs when we step into the role of what I call self-mother. Without a role model, though, what does that mean? What is self-love? What is self-compassion? Is it a yoga class? Maybe a little Nia? Just learned about Nia. I really like it. Maybe it's a hot yoga class. The thing is, it's hard to know because there's no role model. So you make a lot of choices that maybe are the right choices, but sometimes aren't. Now, I want to tell you about my son. I'm the mother of a 31-year-old son. He is my finest production. He's going to see this and go, "Oh, Mom." He always does. But throughout my pregnancy with him, there was that numbness I talked about. I mean, I had no point of reference, and I was young. I was 22. But when he was born, there was this ignition in me. It was a pilot light. I had never loved like that before. It's unbelievable. It's organic. And frankly, I think it's the thing that keeps us from wringing their little necks. I do. Right? Yeah. Amen, Mama? Oops, I'm pulling my microphone off. So, throughout life, I made a lot of choices because of lack of a role model and lack of self-definition that perhaps weren't in my best interest. And I could really recant some of them to you, but I'm just going to tell you a story that kind of sums it up. You're hungry. You're walking down the street and there's a cafe. You go in, you look at the menu, you order your sandwich, they bring it out. Now this sandwich, the way they make it, it's a gorgeous piece of ciabatta bread, hot, just fresh out of the oven, some Dijon mustard, maybe some Cowgirl creamery cheese, some heirloom tomatoes from the farmer's market, maybe a little prosciutto if you are carnivorous. And then on that top, I know, right? On the top piece of bread, they just take this healthy dollop of poop, spread it oh so nicely on the top of that bread and put it down, okay? Bring it out, serve it to you. They may not even tell you that there's poop on the sandwich. But if they did, you probably wouldn't hear it because you are so hungry. You are so hungry. So you dive in heartily, you take a bite. I know. You know, I know. For the squeamish here, bear with me. So you take a bite, and you might not notice that there's something wrong with it. Maybe you do, but you're so hungry, You're willing to keep taking those bites. With every bite, it gets a little more evident. Something's not right. So what do? Do you throw it in the trash can? I don't, usually. I'm a slow learner. I'll go get a little mayo, maybe some more of that good mustard, doctor it up so it is palatable. But girlfriends, at the end of the day, it is a shit sandwich. Right? It is. I bet some of you guys have eaten at that cafe. Could be a relationship, could be a job. It shows up in a lot of ways. Those unpalatable situations in my life that have shown up in my life, I've come to see them as what I call severe mercies. Because with every bite, it gets to a point. Those difficult situations got me to the point where I was so uncomfortable and it was so distasteful that I knew that I had to change. And that change is when you turn that love that you're so willing to give to everybody else and you save a little bit of it for yourself. It's self-love, it's self-compassion, and it's self-mothering. I've eaten enough of that sandwich to kind of figure out how to manage it. And I want to share with you just some practical things that you can do. I want to talk about the action of self-love. Because again, like I said, when there's no model, it's really hard to conjure it. So I'm going to tell you a couple things that I've used and I use to this day. Because I'm not better, but I am really getting there. So the first thing, when you've got to pee. And that sounds so silly, and you may think that I've got a little fetish about going potty, but I don't. I don't. But think about this situation. It's happened to me. I bet it's happened to all of us. You're sitting at your desk. It's the end of the day. You got to pee. You've had to pee for a while. But you know what? You got to get home because so-and-so's got to get somewhere or whatever. So you think, okay, I'll go to the grocery store and I'll pee at the grocery store. So you go in, you grab your stuff. You look at your watch, you realize, you know what, the dry cleaner closes in 5 minutes and I got to get there. I got that meeting in the morning. So you go to the dry cleaner, you pick your stuff up, and by the time you have driven across town and gotten home, your bladder is up to here and your teeth are swimming, and you finally allow yourself to sit down and get some relief. When you heed that call, it's just basic, it's natural physiology. But it's an anxiety that causes us to say, that's that little thing in our brain that says, you know what, I'm uncomfortable. Self-love, you just sit down and tend to it then. And what happens is it builds a construct, it builds neural pathways for a different outcome. The second intervention that I use very frequently is I look at myself through the eyes of my girlfriends. I've got some girlfriends, long-term girlfriends, who know me, really know me, good, bad, and indifferent. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the things that I say to myself and the way I treat myself, I would never, ever hang out with that woman. I wouldn't. And when I begin to hear her, I stop consciously and say, what would Debbie say? What would FC say? And it's a powerful tool because they would never, ever say the things that I said. And finally, the third thing, I am a fabulous cook, really good. And if I learned that all of you or most of you were coming to my house for dinner, maybe not tonight, but tomorrow, I really could go over to the farmer's market or Whole Foods or wherever, get something together and cook something, if I had a big enough pot, that would knock your socks off. So I like to cook for people. It's just another way of giving, living vicariously through my interventions. But recently I went to the grocery store, and it was for me. The cupboards were bare, I needed some food, and I went to the grocery store and I looked at all those gorgeous vegetables and I thought, I don't know what I want. It was really a wake up. So I stood there and I digested mentally every one of those vegetables. I looked at it and I said, this is a tomato. What does that taste like? No, I don't like that. Put it away. This is a pepper. You know, you get the point. And it's really, really an exercise of self-service and self-love and self-compassion. You might not have a clear idea of what self-love looks like, but if you start with these very basic constructs, you will be amazed at how your energy will change toward yourself. Now, if you have a great mother, you have reason to celebrate. You really do. Yeah, for the mamas. If your relationship with your mother is somehow compromised, or with your mother figure, what about that? Let's see. If it's compromised, there comes a time when, if you can turn your love into yourself, it is a place of healing and it's a place of forgiveness. And it's a powerful place to be. Your legacy to yourself and to your children, or to your children who are not yet born, is for you to boldly and lovingly step into the power of mother. Thank you. Thank you.